And the third actually thing that actually I like to emphasize, here before started the surah is that the surah and also the surah before has been talking about one important thing, taqwa. What actually happening is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to